I'm Paula Visna, and I have been involved with Young Life for, I think, about 25 years off and on in various different roles. I have been a high school leader, I have been a high school team leader, I have been middle school leader, I've been a church partnership middle school leader with my team from church. I am currently a leader at Carbonado Middle School, and I teach EK and music at Carbonado Middle School as well.
Jared Bleasdale. I've led at White River High School for 12 years.
And I'm Kelsey Bleasdale, and I've led at Glacier Middle School for about 6 years.
Within Young Life, I think there still has been a gap. And like we say, you know, the river is a gap, but it just does seem like there's a gap as far as how much exposure the area director has excuse me, to clubs and leaders on the other side of the bridge. I think just having presence on that side of the bridge goes a long way.
I think the history has impacted Young Life quite a bit, just because the two communities are very divided and the two schools are now in different counties. There's a physical divide of the river. All of that has kind of created a rivalry between Enumclaw and White River, which at times can be pretty impactful and negative to the views across the river.
I think with that, our schools facilitate competition between the two communities, which brings out a lot of kids. Like when it's Battle of the Bridge week, kids come out in spades, and it's it can be really big for relationship building. It can be a great opportunity. But I think Young Life's role within that needs to be to bring those two communities together and help our kids see that it can be fun to have competition and it can be really great, but also we can be excited for our friends who live across the bridge, and we can still be one community.
It's hard with separate communities, and I have even, you know, over the years felt separated Carbonado to Buckley. That's just a separation. You know, the farther out you go, the farther away you feel, because we're used to coming down. People aren't used to coming up, and they just don't. I think that's for Carbonado to Buckley as well as Buckley to Enumclaw. A lot of people from Buckley come this direction, but people from Enumclaw don't necessarily come the other direction.
I had to be the one to speak out to the needs of White River because the focus was so much on Enumclaw that the mindset was essentially, here's Enumclaw's schedule and here's what's going on with Enumclaw. Oh yeah, and there's White River too to focus on.
It has become really difficult to have to not only focus on leading kids well and bringing them along with us in our walk through life, but also focus on being heard and represented within the larger area of Young Life. It just has become really exhausting to have to do that for ourselves, and it has the potential to take away from the time and energy that we get to spend building relationships with kids.
Because God's called me to different areas, communicating and being in the know of everything that's going on, and as a leader to, you know, being able to get information that's needed to kids, so coming and getting the things and picking them up and taking them to kids, having them be connected to where, you know, they know where the office is and they can come and deliver things or drop things off. And that's a challenge for everybody with the bridge traffic and what we deal with in that.
I think the biggest thing that just kind of takes its toll for us volunteer leaders is just that organizational piece, to get clubs going, camp stuff, staying on top of all those small essentially everyday pieces that need to happen to have Young Life represented well.
Because there's nobody necessarily focused on our teams and our district and our specific community, that becomes our role to make sure that wildlife is represented. And so I think having somebody who can come in and help to organize that and help to be present.
Definitely having an office leadership presence on our side of the bridge would be huge. Having somebody on the leadership team, the area leadership team, directly able to reach out to people in Buckley and Carbonado, and get to know them and build rapport with families and communities. And I think leaders would come out of that. I think supporters would come out of that. I think kids would come out of that. I think Christians, new believers would come out of that.
I think it's really freeing as a volunteer leader to think about the potential of bringing on a staff person to represent the White River side of the area. I think at the end of my workday, if I need to drive to Enumclaw to the office to pick up whatever we need for club the next day or the next week, that's exhausting, and it's a 10-minute drive, but it's another thing that is just a more challenging piece for us as White River leaders than it is for Enumclaw leaders at this point. And so I think having a staff person to come on and be able to bring those things to us, or to be able to pick things up from us that we used at club and take them back to the office, somebody to come and build relationships with kids and families while I need to be a teacher, like those types of things feel really freeing when I think about them.
And I think having a voice at all the Young Life meetings, not just the leader meetings, but the committee meetings and everything else that happens, making sure that there's a voice for White River at all those places.